Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a really powerful documentary script you brought in. It covers Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Ogoni struggle in Nigeria.
That's right. And what jumps out immediately is just how pivotal this story is, and sadly, how tragic.
Absolutely. The source material, this script, it really paints a picture of, well, a clash of huge forces.
Exactly. You've got massive environmental issues, basic human rights being ignored, huge corporate power with Shell.
And then this incredible individual courage standing against it all.
Precisely. So it's not just a timeline of events we're looking at.
No, we want to dig deeper, right? Understand who Ken Saro-Wiwa actually was.
Yeah, and the specifics of what the Ogoni people were facing environmentally, socially.
And how MOSOP, the movement for the survival of the Ogoni people, came about.
Their response, essentially, and then crucially, the reaction from the Nigerian government and Shell.
Which led to that highly questionable trial.
Oh, deeply questionable. And ultimately his execution. We need to unpack that whole sequence.
Right. And then look at the legacy. What's the impact today? Our mission, let's say, is to grasp the heart of this moment.
This collision of environmental rights, corporate money, human dignity.
All seen through Saro-Wiwa's journey.
And it's important to remember, this isn't just history locked away. It's a template, almost.
How so?
Well, you see similar dynamics playing out, around the world. Resource extraction, indigenous rights, environmental protection. It's a recurring conflict.
Okay, so let's start with the man himself. Ken Saro-Wiwa, born October 10th, 1941 in Ogoni land. The script mentions relatively modest beginnings.
Yes, not from wealth or privilege, which makes his later influence, even more remarkable.
It really does, and his talents were so varied.
That's what's fascinating. The script lists him as a scholar, a linguist.
A novelist, too. Using stories.
And a satirist. Creator of that TV show, Basie and Company.
Right. Using humor, which is often such a powerful tool for critique, isn't it?
Absolutely. And eventually he channeled all that into activism.
There's a quote in the archival footage from Wole Soyinka.
Ah, yes, the Nobel laureate. What does he say?
Ken was articulate, fearless, and most of all, he had vision.
That really sums it up. Articulate, fearless vision. He saw the need to communicate on many levels.
Literature, satire, grassroots organizing.
Exactly. Different ways to expose the corruption, the inequality, to reach different people. It's quite a strategy, really.
Like using satire historically, it can really cut through.
It could be incredibly effective. Okay, so the script then shifts focus. 1958. Oil is discovered in the Niger Delta.
And this wasn't a blessing, was it? For the Ogoni, it was the start of, a nightmare.
A complete environmental catastrophe. The script doesn't mince words.
Describe that devastation for us. Based on the documentary's account, it wasn't just like a bit of mess.
Oh, far, far from it. Think about rivers literally turning black with crude oil. Constant spills.
Killing all the fish, ruining livelihoods.
Exactly. And the soil, soaked with oil, with waste products. It couldn't grow crops anymore.
So their food source, their income, just decimated.
And then there was the air pollution. Gas flaring, burning off natural gas 247.
Releasing toxins, causing health problems. It's just relentless.
A sustained assault on their entire environment. And the economic side is just as shocking.
Yeah, the script points out Shell had taken out, over $30 billion worth of oil by the 90s?
30 billion. And yet, for the Ogoni people living on that land,
nothing. No schools, no clean water, no hospitals. The script is really stark about that.
It's extraction in its purest, most brutal form. Taking the wealth, leaving the damage, and reinvesting absolutely zero back into the community.
That kind of injustice, it can't last forever without pushback, can it?
No. It breeds resentment. Deep, deep resentment. And eventually, resistance. Which brings us to 1990.
The formation of MOSOP, the movement for the survival of the Ogoni people.
And Saro-Wiwa was central to this, leading it.
And crucially, the script emphasizes it was founded on nonviolence. That's key.
Absolutely key. It wasn't an armed struggle. It was about peaceful protest, demanding rights.
So what were their main demands? What was MOSOP asking for?
Two core things, really, and they're linked. Self-determination, more control over their own lives and resources.
A fair share of the oil wealth, presumably?
Yes. And secondly, environmental justice. Stop the pollution now and clean up the mess that's already been made.
Saro-Wiwa was the voice articulating this, mobilizing people.
He was incredibly effective. Clear, powerful messages. Peaceful mobilization.
The script mentions a huge protest in 1990, like 300,000 Ogoni people.
Imagine that. 300,000 people non-violently demonstrating. It shows the scale of the movement, the unity.
And his words from back then, there's an archival clip mentioned.
Ah, yes.
We will lay down our lives if necessary to defend our land, our dignity, our future. Powerful stuff.
Incredibly powerful. It shows just how high the stakes felt for them. This wasn't just politics. It was about survival, dignity.
Defending their ancestral home. And while you can guess this kind of organized resistance wasn't popular.
Not with Shell, who were making billions, and not with the Nigerian military government benefiting from it.
So the reaction was severe. The documentary script details this, right?
Oh, yes. It talks about a clear pattern, really. Collusion between the government and the corporation.
They sent the army in.
Officially, for peacekeeping. But the reality, according to Amnesty International in the script,
What did they call it?
a campaign of terror aimed squarely at crushing MOSOP, silencing dissent.
And the script includes testimonies from survivors.
Yes, harrowing accounts. Villages raided, people beaten, arrested arbitrarily, even killed.
It completely contradicts the peacekeeping narrative.
Utterly. These first-hand stories show the brutality, the human cost. Villages burned down, it was ruthless.
A deliberate strategy to intimidate.
No question. To break their spirit.
Then came 1994, a pivotal and very murky event. 4 Ogoni chiefs were murdered.
Right, during some kind of internal community dispute.
But the military government immediately blamed Saro-Wiwa and MOSOP leaders.
Even though, as the script notes, Saro-Wiwa apparently wasn't even there when it happened.
That sounds incredibly convenient for the authorities.
Extremely convenient. The timing, the speed, the accusation, it feels very much like a pretext.
The excuse they needed to finally get him.
Exactly.
Right.
To arrest him and decapitate the movement's leadership.
Which they did. Saro-Wiwa and 8 others arrested, and then the trial?
If you could even call it that. The script is scathing. A secret military tribunal.
No jury, verdict predetermined.
Basically, the defense lawyer quoted in the script is blunt. There were no fair proceedings.
Witnesses bribed, evidence fabricated.
The whole 9 yards, he calls it a political execution masked as justice.
Just designed to get one outcome.
Silence Saro-Wiwa. Crush MOSOP. That seemed to be the only goal.
But even from detention, Saro-Wiwa's voice wasn't entirely silenced, was it? There's another quote.
Yes, you can kill the messenger, but not the message. Defiant to the end.
And the world was watching by this point, right? International pressure was mounting.
It was. The script mentions figures like Mandela, Bill Clinton, the UN, all expressing concern, appealing for clemency.
So there was significant global attention on this flawed process.
Yes, a growing awareness that this was persecution, not prosecution, that the charges were political.
But General Abacha, the military leader, he ignored it all.
Completely disregarded the international pleas,
Yeah.
which led directly to November 10th, 1995.
The day of the hangings. In Port Harcourt, the script includes some grim details.
Yeah, it even mentions problems with the execution itself, difficulties with the ropes. It's just brutal.
The callous end, and the reaction globally.
Horror. Absolute horror and condemnation. Vigils, protests, London, New York, Lagos.
A real international outcry.
And that quote from Ken Saro-Wiwa's son, it's so poignant.
What was it again?
They wanted to silence him, but what they did was awaken the world.
Wow. So in trying to extinguish his voice, they actually amplified his message.
Paradoxically, yes. The execution brought massive attention to the Ogoni plight, to the environmental issues, corporate accountability, things he fought for.
Okay, let's talk about that legacy. Years later, the UN got involved directly, didn't they?
Yes. The United Nations Environment Program, UNP, they did a major study released in 2011.
And what did it find? Did it back up what Saro-Wiwa had been saying?
Unequivocally, it was scientific proof of everything MOSOP had claimed for decades. Widespread, severe pollution, contaminated groundwater, soil.
Just confirming the scale of the disaster.
And concluding it would take decades and billions of dollars to even begin to clean up Ogoni land. A total validation.
And Shell, there was a legal case in the U.S., wasn't there?
There was. In 2009, they settled for $15.5 million.
But crucially, the script notes they admitted no wrongdoing.
Right. They paid the money but denied responsibility for the abuses or the pollution.
Why do that? Why settle but deny?
Well, it avoids setting a legal precedent, doesn't it? If they admit fault here, maybe they'd be liable elsewhere. It's often a calculated corporate move.
So for the Ogoni people, some money, maybe some help, but not really justice.
Probably not a feeling of full justice, no. The script implies that sense that the wounds were deeper than just money could fix, especially without an admission of responsibility.
Yet, despite all that, Saro-Wiwa's legacy within the Ogoni community remains incredibly strong.
Oh, immensely strong. The script mentions a youth leader calling him our Mandela, our Malcolm X.
That puts him on a very high pedestal, a symbol of resistance.
Absolutely. He inspires their ongoing fight for the environment, for autonomy, for their future.
And the documentary suggests there are signs of that continuing fight.
Yes, youth rallies, the slow start of cleanup efforts, people still reading his books, engaging with his ideas. His spirit is definitely alive there.
It really is a testament to the power of one voice, even facing such odds. His sacrifice wasn't in vain, even if the struggle continues.
Exactly. It catalyzed so much, even if the final victory, the full restoration, is still a long way off.
And his own words, the final quote in the script.
The writer cannot be a mere storyteller. He must be a teacher, a guardian of the truth, and a soldier of freedom.
That says it all about his commitment, doesn't it?
It really does. The role of the writer, the activist, in fighting for justice.
A really powerful place to end our deep dive. It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? About individual voices against huge systems.
And those long-term consequences of environmental damage tied to human rights abuse.
And it raises big questions about global responsibility. How do we hold powerful corporations and governments accountable?
What is the role of the international community?
Yeah.
These questions are still incredibly relevant today.
They certainly are. Well, thank you for walking us through this vital and deeply affecting story.
Thank you. It's a story that needs to keep being told.